Hi, it's Mitch from PickDawgz.com. Thursday, June 13th, 2024, doing your Major League Baseball first 5 innings picks. We've got no first halves to go over today, so it's all MLB. 11-game card and day and night action. Of course, we also do Today in Sports History. And today in Sports History, 1953, Ben Hogan wins his 4th U.S. Open, defeating Sam Snead. Anyone out there who plays golf, if you haven't read The Modern Fundamentals of Golf by Ben Hogan, a lot of us learned how to play golf just by reading that book, including myself. But Ben Hogan, 4th U.S. Open title, 1953. Of course, we don't have to wait till 1953 or 2053 to pound the books. We're going to get right into it early and often today. So let's crush the books together. And of course, let's do it in the first 5 innings. For our first game, we head to Camden Yards in Baltimore, where the Orioles are hosting the Braves. It's been all Orioles this series, and they look to close it out against the Braves with a sweep as Cole Irvin goes to the bump for the Orioles. It's Ronaldo Lopez on the mound for the Braves. Of course, Lopez having an outstanding season with a 1.85 ERA. It has climbed to 2.70 over his last 3 starts. Meanwhile, Cole Irvin, 2.87 ERA, down to 2.12 over his last 3 starts as we all wait for the collapse. Look at the way the Braves are hitting lefties recently, 235 over their last 10 games, just 191 versus righties. Been absolutely terrible. And the Orioles hitting right-handed pitching at 267. This team is just simply clubbing the ball, and while maybe the Yankees are getting all the accolades in the American League East, the Orioles, boy, they look awfully tough as well. I'll tell you, tough to go against the O's. I'm going to take the Orioles in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we head to Detroit, where the Tigers are hosting the Washington Nationals. Casey Mize on the bump for the Tigers, while Patrick Corbin on the mound for the Nationals. Corbin, of course, has that massive contract. It is expiring this year, but it doesn't matter. He is pretty wealthy. Comes in with a 6.15 ERA on the season, 5.71 over his last 3 starts, and Casey Mize, 4.73 ERA on the season, 5.27. Not nearly the same pitcher that we've seen, prior to his injury. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, especially, versus the hand pitcher that they're facing. It's the Nationals hitting 263 over the last 10 versus righties. The Tigers, 255 versus lefties over their last 10. This is decidedly much better than what they're hitting from the other side of the plate, where the Nationals hitting just 186 versus lefties and the Tigers hitting just 196 versus righties. So it's strength on strength, 2 bad pitchers and a lot of hits and a lot of runs. I'm going with the over in the first 5 of the Tigers Nationals. For our next game, we go to Kansas City, where the Royals are hosting the Yankees. The Yankees continuing to roll on, just dominating American League Central teams, looking to make it 16 in a row versus the AL Central as Nestor Cortes Jr. takes the mound against Alex Marsh. Cortes, certainly his ERA heading in the wrong direction, 3.68 for the season and 5.40 over his last 3 starts, while Marsh, 4.05 for the season and 7.41 over his last 3 starts. So both these pitchers really not at their best. The Yankees are hitting righties at just 252 over their last 10. Well, just 252. I think most teams would take it. And the Royals hitting lefties better than they hit righties, 264 over their last 10 games and 266 for the season. So it's been a continuous pounding as the Yankees numbers pretty consistent as well. I think, for me, I just think that it's just tough to go against the Yankees right now. And I know Cortes hasn't been very strong, but Marsh, well, against that Yankees lineup, I got to take the Yankees. For our next game, we head to St. Louis, where the Cardinals are taking on the Pirates. Mitch Keller on the bump for the Pirates, Lance Lynn on the mound for the Cardinals. Keller has been outstanding with a .96 ERA over his last 3 starts, 3.16 for the season, while Lynn pitching well as well, 3.21 ERA over his last 3 with a 3.58 for the season. The thing we know about Lynn is he gives up a lot of hits and he puts a lot of runners on base, but they struggle to cross the plate. At least that's been his resume when he's been with the Cardinals. When he's been with other teams, Well, they all seem to cross the plate. But the thing that we know about this series, watching these games, is the Pirates have had tons of runners on base and have failed to capitalize on most of the opportunities that they've had. Kind of plays into Lynn's hands, but at the same time, how are the Cardinals going to get anything done against Keller? When we look at the way these teams are hitting righties recently, no one really hitting anything, with Pitt at 218 and the Cardinals at 238. It looks like a solid under, but let's take a side. We'll take the Pirates in the first 5 of this one. For our next game, we head to Tampa Bay, where the Rays are taking on the Cubs. It's Taj Bradley on the mound for the Rays and Justin Steele on the mound for the Cubs. While Steele has had his problems with injuries this season and he's had some subpar performances, it looks like he's starting to find the stuff that made him the Cubs' #1 starter heading into the season, as he's got a .95 ERA over his last 3 starts, down from 3.65 for the season. While Taj Bradley is giving up a lot of home runs, 5.17 ERA for the season and 6.75 over his last 3 starts. You know, the thing is when we look at the way these teams are hitting, the Rays are just crushing lefties at 281 over their last 10 games, and the Cubs hitting righties at 238. But what we've seen in this particular series is the Cubs have hit pretty well situationally, and if it wasn't for that miracle home run that the Rays got on Tuesday, boy, the Cubs would be looking for the sweep in this one. I think the Rays have a struggle with Steele. I think the Cubs probably get to Bradley. I'm going to take the Cubs in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we head to Fenway Park in Boston, where the Red Sox are hosting the Philadelphia Phillies. This series knotted up at a game apiece after the Red Sox got the win on Wednesday. They sent Tanner Houck to the mound for this one, up against Aaron Nola for the Phillies. Houck has been the best of the best for the Red Sox, 1.91 ERA on the season, 1.80 over his last 3 starts, while Nola, after signing the big contract, has actually been a better pitcher than what we've seen in the past. 2.77 ERA on the season and 1.86 over his last 3 starts. We know the Red Sox have struggled to put wins together, not something they've been able to do, but of course we're just looking at the first 5 innings, and Houck has been an absolute handful to hit. The Red Sox are actually hitting right-handed pitchers better than the Phillies are over their last 10 games, 277 to 240. But meanwhile, when we look at versus righties for the season, it's actually pretty even. I think that maybe the Phillies a little overstated here. I'll take the Red Sox in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we head to Citi Field in New York, where the Mets are hosting the Marlins. Luis Severino getting the bump for the Metropolitans, while it is Rodri Munoz on the mound for the Marlins. What we've seen from Munoz so far is he challenges too many of the good hitters, and when you do that, well, you see Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman bombs flying out of the ballpark. But the thing is that like a lot of these Marlins pitchers, he might be raw, but he certainly has talent. On the other side, Luis Severino, he's been hit and miss throughout his career. He can look like an absolute greyhound out on the mound, but sometimes, boy, he just looks absolutely lost as well. But as of late, he's been pitching well with a 2.66 ERA over his last 3 starts. The thing is, when you look at the hitting of these two teams, it is virtually identical. And, while the Mets are hitting righties slightly better through their last 10 games, the thing is we know when the Mets are rolling well and when things are going well and people have confidence in them, well, that's usually when they fall flat on their faces, and there's no way I'm laying these kind of odds with the New York Mets. I'll take the odds with the Marlins, and that'll be my pick for the first 5. For our next game, we head to Minnesota, where the Twins are taking on the Oakland A's. Joe Ryan gets the ball for the Twins, and it's Luis Medina on the mound for the A's. Medina came crashing back down to earth with his last start, and his ERA ballooned to 5.23, and of course that's where he is for his last 3, while Joe Ryan, seen as a top of the rotation guy, but rarely delivers in that aspect. 3.30 ERA for the season, 3.79 over his last 3 starts. But the thing is that when Ryan starts, the Twins games generally go over, and that is the case. 18-7-1 to the over in Ryan's last 26 home starts. When we look at the way that the A's are playing coming in, been a scrappy bunch, but at the same time, it hasn't yielded the big results. And, the Twins, they've been tough to read as well. We know the A's are not hitting righties recently, just 188 versus right-handed pitching, while the Twins 248 versus righties, and of course coming off of a big win where they really strung some runs together against the Rockies. I'll take the Twins. I'll lay the run line for the first 5. For our next game, we head to Arizona, where the D-backs are hosting the Angels. It's Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for the D-backs and Griffin Canning on the mound for the Angels. Canning had a horrific start to the season, and kind of the odds makers in the betting public really held that against him. And we've gotten some decent value on him, but the thing is, they haven't really converted recently in Canning starts, as the team just 1-2 in his last 3. But, for Pfaadt, D-backs just 1-2 in his last 3. He's been hit very hard. He's got a 4.60 ERA in the season and 6.38 over his last 3 starts, while Canning 4.65 for the season, but 3.50 for his last 3 starts. We look at the way these teams are hitting right-handed pitching lately, and the D-backs hitting righties at 267. In fact, they're hitting lefties at 318 all over their last 10 games, while the Angels hitting just 216 versus right-handed pitching. But for the season, these teams virtually identical at 229 versus right-handed pitching. Oh man, a lot of numbers there, but what I see is Brandon Pfaadt with that giant ERA. I'm going to take the Angels in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Seattle, where the Mariners are taking on the White Sox. It's Castillo on the mound for the Mariners and Crochet on the mound for the White Sox. As a White Sox fan, the rumors that I hear are the phones are ringing off the hook with other teams trying to trade for Robert and Crochet, the 2 names that they're really looking at. And, and we know the White Sox, they're always willing to deal if the price is right in their direction. So if they get rid of those guys, boy, they are going to get a haul. Crochet comes in with a 3.33 ERA, at 2 ERA over his last 3 starts, while Castillo 3.35 for the season, 3.50 over his last 3 starts. Of course, the White Sox have not been hitting the baseball at all. 207 versus righties, but the Mariners, a pathetic 154 versus lefties. I think the under is the easy play in this one, and probably where the bulk of my money will be going. Probably also put a slight lean to the White Sox, but I'm going to go with this one. I'll just say let's take the under in the first 5, even though it is a very small number. For our last game on the card, we head to Chavez Ravine in LA, where the Dodgers are hosting the Texas Rangers. Boy, I got a lot of hate on my regular video taking the Texas Rangers yesterday, but, well, as is usually the case, once they come through for me, well, it's crickets as usual. But in this one, the Dodgers pitching change. Originally, Yamamoto slated to go in this game. Now it's Michael Grove, while Michael Lorenzen's still getting the ball for the Rangers. Lorenzen's not a guy that we generally trust because he walks a lot of batters. He certainly has good stuff when he's on, but you give those free passes, especially a team like the Dodgers, well, usually you're going to pay the price. But with Grove going instead of Yamamoto, it is a different story for me when it comes to this game. And, of course, that's why you watch the live show, to get the updates on our picks. But I think in this particular game, if it was Yamamoto, I was all over the Dodgers. But with it being Grove, I'll tell you what, it's well worth taking a shot at the big money here with Lorenzen. I'm going to take the Rangers in the first 5 of this game. That wraps up today's first 5 innings for Major League Baseball action. Tomorrow, we've got a full Major League Baseball card, including the NBA Finals Game 4, which could be the final NBA basketball game of the season. Of course, if you're looking for my best bets, the games I'm betting today, as well as best bets from the world's best handicappers, go to our website, PickDawgz.com, and click on the Premium Picks tab. I also have a link in the description where you can get that as well. And of course, use that discount code PICK if you want an additional 15% off. We also have PickDawgz gear, like the shirt I'm wearing, like the hat I'm wearing, and like the Nike zip-ups, golf polos, and much, much more, including our new bobbleheads, which will be available sometime around the All-Star break. You can click on the merch tab at PickDawgz.com, or once again, I've got a link in the description for that as well. This is Mitch. Thanks for joining me. Have an awesome day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to knock the cover off the ball and crush the books together.